We have another loaded show coming your way on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. And coming up, Philadelphia listed as a destination for multi-time All-Pro defensive tackle Cam Heyward of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to dive into that. And then we have an injury update on safety Sidney Brown, so stay tuned for that as well. Let's begin, though, by taking a look at our NFC East sub-battle. This is a list of all of the NFC East channels here at Chat Sports, and the numbers here are the amount of subscribers picked up since July 1st. Now, among all NFL channels during the month of June, Philadelphia Eagles Now picked up the most subscribers. We had a monster month. Thank you so much to all of the real ones for supporting the show. Here in July, I want to run it back. But right now, we are trailing the Commanders Report by nearly 300 subscribers since we turned the page to July. As you can see, 803 subscribers for the Commies. Eagles Now at 534. We are dominating Giants Now and the Cowboys Report, but I want to finish in first place, just like I want the Eagles to finish in first place among 32 teams in the NFL. So hit that subscribe button. Eagles training camp is here. We'll be doing watch parties for the preseason, every game during the regular season, hopefully embarking on a long playoff run. This is your go-to destination for informative, entertaining, insightful, thought-provoking Eagles content here on YouTube that involves you, the fan. Should the Philadelphia Eagles trade for All-Pro defensive tackle Cam Heyward? The Birds listed as a top trade destination for an excellent player who's been excelling across the state for a long time here. What a career that Cam Heyward's been able to put together. A 2011 first-round pick out of Ohio State, 31st overall by Pittsburgh. Again, his career trajectory has been very interesting. He didn't become an All-Pro Pro Bowl level talent until his late 20s. For a little while there to start his career, a very solid player, but a late bloomer, so to speak. So he gets drafted 2011 in the first round, 31st overall, the second to last pick in that first round that year. And then he becomes a three-time first-team All-Pro in 2017, 2019, and 2021. So after he gets drafted in 2011, doesn't become an All-Pro player until 2017. That's the late bloomer aspect that I was talking about to his career path. He's a second-team All-Pro in 2020, and then he's been a consecutive six-time Pro Bowler from 2017 to 2022. Last year, he was banged up, and that's why that kind of run for him, that was a dominant stretch, came to an end. And he is 35 years old, so he's a little bit long in the tooth, entering the twilight of his career. He's entering the final year of his contract, looking to lock down a new deal with Pittsburgh, the only team and organization that he's known, and Pittsburgh is not giving him that deal. Writing might be on the wall that maybe he's going to play elsewhere. Could that be via a trade, or is he going to live out the final year of his contract with the Steelers and then play elsewhere following the 2024 season? That's why he's being talked about as a trade candidate here. So entering the final year of a 4-year, $65.5 million contract that he signed a few seasons ago. He's looking for that new deal, and he could be a training camp holdout for Pittsburgh. He is very expensive this year. A 2024 base salary on the expiring year of $16 million, and then a cap hit of $22.4 million. That is a lot for a defensive tackle. And it's a fat sum for a 35-year-old defensive tackle. Now, Philadelphia does have $25.7 million in cap space. Their situation at defensive tackle, a couple of young players who have to start breaking out and finding their stride. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Milton Williams. This would really be a move that would fortify that unit to make it good to great. But I'm not sure Philadelphia and Howie Roseman want to pay that much money for a 35-year-old defensive tackle. It's one thing like during the 2022 season when during the year you bring in Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph on a vet minimum contract. It's another to pay Cam Heyward this amount of dough. Last 4 years, though, he has been a terrific player. Last year was injured, missed a lot of time during the early to middle portion of the season. That's why he only logged 2 sacks with 6 TFLs, 3 quarterback hits, and 33 tackles. But the season before that and in 2021, just a dominant force. In 2022, 10.5 sacks. Anytime a defensive tackle has double-digit sacks, it's really, really impressive because you're naturally prone to getting double-teamed a lot because you're not on the edge. So 14 TFLs on top of that, 23 quarterback hits and 74 tackles in 2021. Once again, double-digit sack season for him. 10 sacks, 15 TFLs, 17 quarterback hits, and 89 tackles. And then in 2020, the sack number is not there, but 9 TFLs, still a really good number. 19 quarterback hits and 54 tackles. His Pro Football Focus numbers last year, 71.9 overall PFF grade, a run defense grade of 67.3, a pass rush grade of 64.2, still had 15 hurries, 18 pressures, and 2 sacks during the 2022 campaign, the elite and dominant player that Cam Heyward's been for a long time. Overall PFF grade of 89.8, a run defense grade of 78.2, pass rush grade of 78.5. So all those numbers in the green. And then 36 hurries, 58 pressures, and those 10.5 sacks. He's good against the run. He's good against the pass. He is just a massive human being who I've actually seen while covering the Super Bowl the last 2 years. He's been doing his media rounds, and it's wild to see a dude in person who's this big. Like, I'm 6 foot, 180 pounds, and, I'm a normal-sized human being, right? You see a player like Cam Heyward with his height, with his mass, with his width, his overall size, and you're like, bro, you were built in a lab, and that's why he's able to push the pocket as a pass rusher, but also be very stout against the run. Now, Bleacher Report listing Philadelphia as a potential trade destination for Heyward services, and they said this: Heyward may become a more realistic trade target closer to the deadline, depending on his contract status and how Pittsburgh's season unfolds. He's worth the mention now, though, because he is seeking a new deal, has yet to receive an extension from the Steelers. The Steelers typically don't negotiate during the year, and if Heyward doesn't have a new deal by the end of August, they may listen to offers. Moving him would save $16 million in cap space for the Steelers. Actually prying him away, though, would likely take a second-round pick at a minimum, possibly more if Heyward agrees to sign an extension upon his arrival. The Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles, two teams that would be sensible suitors for Heyward. Both are entering 2024 with a win-now mentality. Both had defensive issues in 2023, and both rank inside the top 10 in terms of available cap space. Now, as for the Eagles' current situation at that defensive tackle spot, you have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Milton Williams. For me, I want to see what those young players can do, and I don't want to bring in an older, expensive player in Cam Heyward to then limit the reps and the snaps that Carter, Davis, and Williams can in turn get, because then you're blocking their potential paths of development. This is also a very affordable room that Philadelphia has right now, even though the Eagles do have a lot of cap space. I'm a believer in Williams. I think that he can become a really good player. Jordan Davis, can he become a 3-down defensive tackle? Jalen Carter has defensive player of the year type of potential. The issue is the depth. You do have Moro Ajomo, PJ Mustipher, Marlon Tuipulotu, and Gabe Hall. So if you bring in Heyward, it makes your depth a lot better. But I think that the Eagles, at the end of the day, are going to stand pat, and they're not going to trade away second or third rounder for the services of Cam Heyward, even though Howie Roseman does have a lot of draft capital at his disposal after he made, those 9-10 trades during the 3 days of the 2024 draft in April. With that, we pop up today's poll question. Let's hear from all the real ones. Should the Eagles trade for Cam Heyward? Let me know down in the comment section right now by simply typing T for trade or P for pass. Coming up next, with Eagles training camp officially underway on this Tuesday, July 23rd, as rookies and veterans are reporting today, we do have a Sidney Brown injury update. Stay tuned for that coming up just around the corner. But first, let's welcome back Game Time as the sponsor of today's Eagles Now, an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball and the National Football League. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier, and they specialize in last-minute deals so that you can save money and have a great time at the ballpark or the stadium, whether you're going to a Phillies game at Citizens Bank Park or an Eagles game at Lincoln Financial Field. Prices on Game Time actually go down closer to when the event gets underway. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets, NBA tickets, NFL tickets. If you're looking to go to a Philadelphia Phillies game, I know they've been struggling a little bit since sweeping the Los Angeles Dodgers, but still the best team in Major League Baseball. Also, if you go to a game at Citizens Bank Park, the best fan experience because every game is sold out and it gets electric inside CBP. Or if you want to go to an Eagles game this upcoming season, preseason, regular season, plenty of tickets available. There are preseason tickets for that Vikings-Eagles game for as low as $23 in the 200 level. And we have a great deal for the Bird Gang. $20 off if you download the Game Time app and use the code CHATSPORTS. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. We'll put all of this information down below for you in the comment section, in the show notes, and attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. Let's move forward here on this Tuesday edition of Philadelphia Eagles Now. This is Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and coming your way, we have a new Sidney Brown injury update. And will the Birds, because of the injury to Sidney Brown and his recovery coming off that torn ACL, make a move at safety, or will they stand pat with C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship as the safety tandem, with maybe Avonte Maddox and James Bradbury mixing in and getting some snaps at that spot? As for Sidney Brown, this report coming from Jimmy Kempski, a Philly voice. He's been covering the Birds for so long, and he is reporting that Sidney Brown is going to start training camp on PUP. We had an expectation that this was going to happen because Sidney Brown tore that ACL in the regular season finale on the awful turf of MetLife Stadium against the New York Giants, and it looks as though that news is going to be official. Here's what Jimmy Kempski had to say about the injury to Sidney Brown, his recovery, and him starting on the physically unable to perform list. Eagle safety Sidney Brown will begin training camp on PUP, according to a source. The PUP list is a tool that teams use for players prior to the start of training camp in case the player is not ready for the start of the regular season. The PUP list must be applied to a player prior to the start of training camp, or it cannot be used at all. Once a player practices in camp at all, they immediately become ineligible for the PUP list during the regular season. The player cannot participate in practice while on the PUP list. Now, with this, we'll see if Sidney Brown is an IR candidate to start the regular season. When we passed along a Sidney Brown injury update a few weeks ago, we had discussed how he tore his ACL against the Giants on Christmas. In the spring, he was doing work on the side, and we were given that injury update a few weeks ago for him doing that work on the side. He's optimistic about his recovery. He was starting to hit the assault treadmill, reaching 20-plus miles per hour. All of that news was obviously good in his recovery. When a player goes on PUP before training camp starts, it's out of precaution, and you don't really want to take up a roster spot for a player who isn't ready to partake in training camp practices yet, and you want to err on the side of caution with his recovery. In 2023, he didn't play a lot to start the year, but as the Eagles' defense was awful and his injuries occurred at that safety position toward the middle to tail end of the year, he started to get some more run for one of the worst defenses in the NFL and one of the worst defenses I've ever laid my eyes on in watching Eagles football since I was 4 years old. But there was some good with Brown, with how he played as a third-round pick out of Illinois as a rookie last year. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 62, a run defense grade of 56.7, only a pass rush grade of 49.9, but that's not really much of his specialty. A coverage grade of 64.9, allowed a passer rating allowed of 113.7. He did have to play a little bit in the slot. I don't think that's the natural position for him. I think it's more of a hybrid linebacker or playing that safety position. During the preseason last year, we saw the athleticism on display, how he plays with this hair on fire, how he's really physical. He's not afraid to lay a hit, and he really has that good range sideline to sideline. He can get overly aggressive, causing him to over-pursue at times so he can be out of position, leading to a splash play. But when I scouted his rookie year, I love the speed and physicality to his game. I think that you can work off of that, and I think that Vic Fangio should be excited about the prospects of Sidney Brown becoming a good player. I mentioned him playing with his hair on fire. There's some good and bad with that, right? Like, you love how aggressive he is, how physical he is, but sometimes because of that, he can miss tackles by over-pursuing, and he can be out of position. I do think that he made some good plays around the line of scrimmage. There's some positional versatility with the player like this. He got beat out of the slot. He did, in the pre-draft process, have a pretty solid 40-yard dash, but I don't think he's twitchy enough to play out of the slot. I think he has more of that long speed. Now, in the pre-draft process, we always like to take a look at these relative athletic scores, and all of these prospects are graded on a scale of 0 to 10, and he earned an RAS score of 9.24. That's pretty good. A lot of green on your screen right here. The red, his height. He's only 5'9", 211 pounds, so he's a little bit shorter, but he's explosive. Vertical leap, 40.5 inches. Really good broad jump at 10 feet, 10 inches. And then his 40-yard dash, a sub 4.5. That's pretty good. And then a good 20-yard split and a 10-yard split. My thoughts on the safety spot, it's a little bit of a position of question right now going into training camp. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, during my perfect Eagles offseason plan, and when we took a look at our top free agent targets at the start of free agency, I wanted to see Philadelphia bring him back. His lone season in Philadelphia, I thought he was tremendous. He's a ball hawk, has really good instinctual skills. I like his versatility because he can play out of the slot. In that deep safety role, he does need to stay healthy. When he was with Philadelphia, he got injured, still tied with Justin Simmons for the league high in interceptions that year. And then last year, he got hurt right from the jump with the Detroit Lions in game number 1 or game number 2, and him missing time has been a troubling storyline of his NFL career. But you have the versatility, you have the swagger, and you have his ability to generate turnovers. And the Eagles as a defense last year did not generate turnovers. It was problematic, and they were minus 10 in turnover differential a year ago. Just awful. And a stark difference from what they did in 2022 when they led the league in sacks with 70. It went down to 55 last year, and they couldn't muster giveaways. Reed Blankenship, the opposite starting safety to CD Deuce, I think is a solid player in this league. The Pro Football Focus grades have checked out. He's a pretty sound tackler. It's really hard to gauge which players last year for the Eagles played well and which players played poorly, because the scheme was so awful. Players played out of position. They weren't put in positions to succeed. Sean Desai was in over his skis, and then Matt Patricia, there's a reason why he hasn't been able to have a steady job since being the Patriots defensive coordinator. Canned by Detroit, and then since then he was brought in as a defensive assistant, a defensive specialist for Philadelphia last year. And he wasn't running his scheme. So it was overall just an awful situation for the Eagles. Mekhi Garner, as far as a depth piece, the jury is still out on him. And then is Philadelphia going to experiment with Devontae Maddox and James Bradbury as depth pieces at safety? Because depth at that position is somewhat of a concern. The top free agent safety still left there on the open market. We've talked plenty about Justin Simmons here on Eagles Now. I think Quandre Diggs would be able to help out this team a lot. You still have Micah Hyde on the free agency market. Kareem Jackson and Deshaun Gibson. Gibson, he wants to continue playing, and he's been in the league for more than a decade, but he did get popped for PED, so he would be suspended for 6 games to start the year, but he's been a serviceable player for San Francisco the last couple of years for a team that made it to the NFC Championship game before losing to Philadelphia, and then last year, as we know, made it to the Super Bowl. And look, I see plenty of the comments. It's so funny to me how people get so fired up when we talk about Justin Simmons on this show, and they're like, talk about something else. Look at the channel history. We talk about plenty here on Eagles Now. Hours and hours of content every single week. And I get that people don't think it's realistic. I think it is. And people are tired of us talking about him, but does he make you better? Yes. Is he good? Yes. Was he a second-team All-Pro last year? Yes. Does Justin Simmons help you win a Super Bowl? Yes. And does he help you at a position of need? Yes. This Eagles secondary last year was awful to epic proportions. The Eagles have remade that entire unit. That's a big reason why Howie Roseman drafted Quinion Mitchell and drafted Cooper DeJean. You have Isaiah Rodgers coming off the gambling suspension. You brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You had to address the holes and the blemishes amidst that Eagles secondary. And Justin Simmons would be able to help with leadership. The Eagles didn't have that last year. Overall good play, Eagles didn't have that last year. Generating turnovers, an area where the Eagles struggled in 2023. But also Philadelphia is going to be implementing a new defensive scheme under new defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. Justin Simmons played under Vic Fangio for a couple of years while with the Denver Broncos. That's why I think it would make sense. He's still out there, and I think it would just make this Philadelphia Eagles defense a lot better. So it's time for you to grade the Eagles safety situation as currently constituted. A, B, C, D, or F, make sure you let me know. And also make sure you give me a follow on social media. I had a couple of Eagles fans reach out over the weekend because, as I like to say, don't be a stranger. Say what's up. I'm on X. So close to 13,000 followers. I'm on Instagram, just surpassed 31,000 followers. I put out a lot of short-form content on my social media pages. And our NFC East sub-battle, only a few days left here in the month of July. Let's take down the Commanders report. Most subscribers picked up since July 1st. We're in second place right now. Let's change that. Hit that sub button for daily coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles. As always, thank you so much for watching. A lot of updates going to be coming out of training camp, and we have you covered right here on Eagles Now.